You're listening to the Future of Convenience podcast, brought to you by Global Convenience Store Focus, featuring senior retail executives and experts in the global convenience, fuels, and mobility retail industry. Welcome to the Future of Convenience podcast. I'm Carolyn Schnare, and I'm joined by my co-host, Harry Milloff. Welcome back, Harry.
Thank you, Carolyn. Great to see you again.
As always. And Harry's been with me for the last couple of weeks talking about Foodvenience with some really awesome top-notch guests. And today's no different. We're going to hear about fast casual food operations and how to do it without sacrificing speed and quality and making sure it tastes absolutely delicious. Before we get started, I want to tell you about a Day Refrigeration. Ready to revolutionize your convenience store kitchen? Look no further than a Day Refrigeration. With a Day innovative patented technology, you'll enjoy a dramatic reduction in energy consumption compared to traditional refrigeration units. A Day drawers offer large capacity and stackability, allowing you to optimize every inch of your storage area and maintain consistent, precise temperatures. Choose a Day Refrigeration for unmatched efficiency and performance made for your convenience. Visit adanday.com to learn more. So, Harry, thanks again for joining me today. I'm excited to go on our Foodvenience journey today. So what do we got?
Carolyn, I want to jump right into this one. I'm really excited. John Iannucci is a great friend of mine. He has a really interesting vantage point within the restaurant industry today. You know, he's led operations with companies that, you know, I'm sure everyone listening knows, BurgerFi and Anthony's Coal Fired Pizza. You know, today he is CEO of Mex, which I'll let John talk a little bit about, but really cool, a company that owns both Escalante and Fat Rosie's, two great Mexican concepts. And, you know, what makes it so interesting from my perspective is that, you know, John has been in these leadership roles across some of the most popular food service menu categories that we see globally. And that's not only in the restaurant space, but also in the convenience sector. And so, you know, when you think about burgers and pizza and tacos and burritos, and I mean, these are the types of foods that we just see so often in these different segments. So I'm really excited to dig into this. And welcome to you, John.
Well, thanks, Harry. Thanks for having me. Carolyn, thanks for having me as well. Super excited to be here and looking forward to this.
Yeah, we are too. So, John, I want to, kind of open this up and, I'll talk a little bit about the convenience industry. You know, we've been seeing a lot of pushes throughout the convenience industry towards increasing levels of food quality. How do we create fresher foods, better guest experiences? And when you're evolving in those ways in food service, there's always kind of inherent impacts that, you know, there might be more labor, there might be increased levels of cost of goods sold when we start looking at, you know, improved ingredients through supply chain and things like that. And I know you have a lot of experience in terms of coming into different food service operations and looking at optimizations. You know, how do we start to really dial this in and tighten the bolts? And I'm curious, you know, when you look at a food service operation and maybe you're seeing it for the first time, what are some of the ways that you assess the performance? How do you know if there's an opportunity to improve?
Yeah, Harry, I mean, look, it's every space has its unique challenges, but, you know, when we specifically are looking, I mean, it's bottlenecks that stand out to us. So any choke points that are impacting either the timing that it's going to take for an item to get to a guest or the quality of the food, a lot of times, especially as we're trying to be convenient and do things so quickly these days, we're looking at holding items. And potentially preparing items and relying on equipment, for those items to be held at the proper temperature or, be within our quality, controls for when we want to get them to the guests. So, a lot is stepping back and looking at how many steps it takes for someone to do something or, look at that throughput opportunity to see where we can be faster. But, really it's kind of like the director of the movie almost, taking a step back and seeing everything in front of you and going, okay, where do I see opportunity? Knowing that you're looking for these, again, choke points that are preventing, a smooth kind of execution of what the end result wants to be.
Mm-hmm. And, when you think about that end result, are you typically tapping into some of your career, past and just kind of your understanding of, what would be best in class metric of something like that? Or are you, checking out competitors at times and doing timings there? I mean, how do you figure out, what this is taking too long and, or, there's opportunity here, and how do you capture that kind of best in class example?
Yeah, no, you're spot on. I mean, right? We're always listening to what the guests are saying. Number one, I mean, and obviously when the guest says something takes too long, even if it took 10 seconds, it's still an eternity in their opinion, in their mind. And so we follow up and make sure that it didn't take indeed the 10 minutes perceived. But it's looking at the competitors. I mean, it's looking at every aspect. And interestingly enough, whatever space I'm in. I look at drive through and I look at areas of the business that are always built around speed that can always put out quality. It always amazes me when you see these brands that can put an item out the door in a minute and 45 seconds, or the timing on things. And I kind of look at it, and granted, there's different items being sold, but I look at how can we duplicate that experience with certain items in this space, in this segment, whatever segment we're in. But how quickly can we get items out, to a guest? Because you look at best in class, restaurants and operators, and thankfully those numbers are public, right? I mean, so we can go see, or we can go in and experience it ourselves. But I'm not ashamed to go in with a stopwatch either, and time something, and see how long things are taking. But really, we're just trying to be best in class and compare ourselves to who's doing it today.
Yeah. It's interesting, you brought up the word convenience in some of the areas that you think about, within your business. And, I'd be curious of if you could just give a little bit of background of Mass Mex and the concepts that you operate. I've had an experience getting in with Fat Rosie's, one of your brands, and it's just such a fun concept, full bar, really lively atmosphere. It is a sit down and full service concept. And if you wouldn't mind just sharing a little bit about Escalantes and Fat Rosie's, what you're about, and also what elements of convenience play a role in your thinking of how you serve your customers in that market.
Yeah, sure. I mean, starting with Fat Rosie's, as you said, I mean, Fat Rosie's is a fiesta. It is absolutely a party, and service brand, about a 40% liquor, beer, and wine mix, and a 60% food mix. And one of the biggest things about Fat Rosie's when we speak to convenience is the ability for us to get a drink on the table, quickly for a guest, right? And the ability for us to get guests, because of the volume, in and out of the restaurants so quickly. And then as well as kind of share that experience inside the restaurant, with that guest at home, when they order online or through third party or, takeout. Fat Rosie's is very high volume. There's currently 6 locations. We're getting ready to open our 7th, here in May in the Illinois area. Escalante's 7 locations today, all in the Houston area. Very similar concept, a little less on the liquor, beer, and wine, mix at about 25%, and the food's about 75% overall. And the biggest challenge there with us in the convenience factor is, if a guest is ordering fajitas, or a guest is ordering an item that is taking a little longer, is, how do we make that experience not be a 2-hour experience based on the slow cooking, right? The Tex-Mex side of things is dealing with a lot of slow cooking and a lot of marinating and a lot of timing with product. And so for us, it's being able to duplicate, what you would expect at a Tex-Mex restaurant in half the time, and making it convenient for you to come in and out, as you please. And it's the same thing with taking it to go, or online, and things like that.
If I may ask one question, because you talked about third party delivery, which is a love hate relationship, maybe more on the
Yeah.
hate side,
Yeah.
with most every food service provider in the entire country, because it is so it's all contingent on some driver showing up on time and actually making it to the place that he needs to go or she needs to go on time while the food is still fresh. So have you changed anything you've done with respect to third party delivery in terms of like the takeout? Like, do you do anything differently with the way you prepare, or not even prepare, but I guess plate? I'm not,
Yeah.
that's not the right word. The food.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, you're spot on. I mean, it is more of a hate love relationship, unfortunately, but it's a necessary evil. And the thing is, we have had to redo the way we plate things. We've had to leave sauces off, or we've had to, put things on the side that are going to otherwise make that item soggy. Um, it's very difficult for food to travel, and everybody says, oh, Mexican food travels better, than this item, and the hard part about that is, regardless of if it stays together, you still get this glob of food in a in a box that's steamed over, and so we try to package the food to go just a little differently. Not every item, but certain items that are made, enchiladas, for example, you may get the sauce in on top and melted and everything in the restaurant, and you may get it on the side here, so that's not soggy when you open it. And that's really the case with like nachos and things like that too. But that's been a challenge for us, and we're still navigating our way through that. But it's certainly a challenge for us.
Same with convenience. I mean, it's a huge factor. It's, most almost always the food in some sort of convenience store is to go. I mean, there's some places with seating and whatnot, but more often than not, it's going somewhere, whether with the person who actually ordered it or with someone else who ordered it and is picking it up for them. And I've even heard like, oh, well, we just get home and put it in the microwave anyway. So it's even like I've even heard some stores thinking of different takeout containers. Like, do I just make use microwave safe containers because that's what they're going to have to do is reheat it. So that's an interesting take on it from both the restaurant perspective and fast food.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in my past, we've done that. We've used microwavable containers, and we went out of our way to tell the guests that this is a microwavable container. And what makes that different is that that item, that package can go in the microwave or the oven. And so we would tell a guest that almost admitting that it's not going to be the same, but here you go. Feel free to redo it at home. Right?
Yeah. I really, it's interesting how you talk about the Tex-Mex cuisine and how, so much of it, kind of revolves around slow cooking and, the passion and love that goes into creating that depth of
Mhm.
flavor, but still wanting and needing to deliver that in rapid speed, to the customers. And it's a similar challenge that a lot of convenience operators face, especially, whether that's on the Tex-Mex cuisine, but also barbecue. And there's a lot of different very popular and portable types of foods that rely on that slow cooking mentality and fundamentals. How do you figure that out and make that equation work? Is it something that you're really looking? Is it supply chain driven? Is it a technology and equipment driven? I mean, how are you unpacking that in order to deliver an experience like that for a customer?
Yeah, it's all the above. It's certainly supply chain. Supply chain plays a huge role in it, and it could be as easy as buying an item, as an example, that may be already pre-trimmed, or a piece of meat that is already cleaned up a little bit more for you, so that you can really, when you get it, you can really just focus on seasoning it, marinating it, getting it in, and potentially saving an hour of time, cleaning it up. And then the equipment's huge too, and so similar to barbecue and all those things. I mean, the equipment for us is everything when it comes to being able to rely on the holding temperatures and being able to rely on the technology aspect of not having to open the oven every second to see if something's done, and really rely on automation in that equipment to kind of hold at the right temp once it reaches the right temp. And so a lot of that, probably in no particular order, is supply chain, equipment, and technology, on our end to help speed up that vantage point for us.
Hmm. When we talk about impulse purchases, in convenience, a lot of times there might be grab and goes, or there might be different elements, near a cash wrap that you're really trying to drive impulse. But in the restaurant sector, we're really thinking about communications, and we're thinking about whether that's menu design or bundles or different promotions, and driving an impulse purchase or maybe an add-on to something. And drinks is something that we talk a lot about in restaurants. But I'm curious, are there any ways that you've seen success in driving impulse purchases that really lead to increasing average check for your customers?
I think we see it more so, in-house. It's really on, the menu, and how the menu is designed, and what you may leave behind, on the table for guests to look at. And, obviously the training that goes into that. But online is a big opportunity for us because when we're serving a guest online, how the way our website is set up and where it's drawing you after you put an item in is almost automatic purely. So if we're doing a bundle, or if we're trying to add on a to-go margarita, and you probably have all seen it, but we get a little pop-up box when you're getting ready to check out that says, "Wait, do you want to add another margarita with that?" Or something like that. And
The answer is
so
always yes.
yeah, it
Sorry.
should be. It should be. It shouldn't be a question, right? But there's those opportunities for us that we found have worked really well. And we look at our basket size online, and through third party, and yeah, the check's larger than it is in house because we are getting that add on and sort of that impulse buy, as you mentioned, where in house, with the menu, obviously the engineering of the menu is important because we're finding that certain areas of the menu that real estate where the guests are prone to go with their eyes may be an area where they'll go, oh, it does sound good, or the way the menu's designed, and we can get that there. But really, I think the big opportunity for us is to continue to capitalize on the way that we're prompting our guests through the checkout line, when they're online.
It's really great points. And, when we talk about ordering online, and there's so many synergies with that experience to other digital ordering applications, whether it's ordering on a cell phone or self-order kiosk. And, we see a lot of different tests going on with self-order kiosks across the industry. And some of those tests prove very successful, and others might stop in their tracks pretty soon after just that initial test because for whatever reasons customers aren't using it, or they're not having a great experience with it. And I know you have some experience with self-order kiosks in different times throughout your career, and I'm curious if you might just talk a little bit about some of the challenges that you faced with self-order kiosks, and if you have any tips for any companies that might be interested in testing or moving forward with a digital ordering systems like that.
Yeah, look, I think self-ordering kiosks are fantastic. I mean, I think when you have them in the right environment and when they're set up properly, I think the key to the success of them is setting them up in the restaurant where they make sense. Often, when you walk into a restaurant, and you follow the flow of where you're supposed to, order take and the orders taken rather. If the kiosk is back in the corner towards the restroom, it just makes no sense, whatsoever, and it's not going to be used. But if it goes with the flow, and can really help to, kind of identify that bottleneck of where the line otherwise would have formed when someone's trying to order from, that cashier area. So positioning is huge, and ease of ordering through the kiosk as well. I found in my past that you can't make those things complicated, right? It's got to be easy for someone to navigate through, and it has to almost be like you're talking to someone. And the kiosk is sort of anticipating your needs, and so it is prompting you, to order the fries or to order up a size, or you've got all those right kind of upsell, buttons in there as well. But the biggest thing what it comes down to is you can't lose the hospitality. Nobody wants to just go in and have a transactional experience. You still have to have someone come in and greet you. Someone at least say, if you need any help, I'm right here. My name's John. I'm here to help. As much as we all want to say that there's a labor component that you can rid of when you put a kiosk in, a lot of that can be true, and it's certainly very helpful in lower volume locations where you may not be able to have as many team members on, but there still needs to be a hospitality aspect to it. And I found that with kiosks, our average check was always higher using a kiosk than it was if a guest would just go order. And a lot of that is because what we were just talking about is that impulse buy. And there's got to be some secret to nobody's paying attention. I'm going to add cheese and bacon on my fries, or I'm going to get this extra side of ranch, whatever it is. But there's some impulse part of that that drives that checkup too. So I'm pro kiosks, given the right situation, setup, and usage, of course.
Yeah, I like that a lot. It's sometimes when you are verbalizing the double meat, double cheese, you might feel a certain way,
There you go.
but by just entering that into the kiosk, can be our little secret.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure, I'll take
It's
that
not
fourth
tracked.
margarita
Yeah,
to go. No,
yeah. There you
wait, I
go.
didn't say that. It's for someone else.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. I mean, it's amazing just to see how technology can really just drive elements of convenience, both on the guest side, but also the team member side. Are there any other technologies that you're using today or are hyper aware of that you think lend themselves really well in terms of a seamless experience for your customers? Uh, Anything that you might want to share?
Yeah, we're testing pay at the table at a Fat Rosie's location, and it's not just the typical kind of QR code that we all went through a couple years ago, right? This is more of a kind of virtual check experience, if you will. With not having to do much. I mean, you are able to even order a drink from the table as well. We're testing this order a second drink from the table. And it's not that we're staffing less. It's that we want to give the guest an opportunity to be able to order a second drink at the table while they're waiting. And let's face it, you could put 60 servers on, and there's still going to be a moment where that server isn't at the table. And so we're trying to make it convenient to get another margarita in your hands, and for you to get in and get out at your own pace, if you will, without us having to, come back and bother you or drop the check and check back and all those things. And so, that's been testing for about 90 days now. We've seen some great success. The one big thing I'll tell you that is helpful with also is just, the rising cost of credit card fees. And, what we're seeing is we're able to, really transform, the guest payment and make it a digital payment where we're now having Google Pay and Apple Pay and all these different versions of payments coming in, that we weren't necessarily getting when a server drops off the check, waits for you to put down your credit card or cash, and then takes the check back. But now we're getting these digital forms of payment, which for us, of course, is eating away at us not having to pay these credit card fees. So it's convenient for the guest, it's convenient for us. So that's something big that we've been testing recently, and it's going really well.
John, that's really interesting because you touched on two different things that are hugely problematic in at least here in the US, but certainly globally, I'm sure, is the labor and the credit card fees, both of those
Mhm.
things. And I like how you take it and customer service is obviously always number one. You want the customer to
Mhm.
be happy and you want it fast, but to take a problem, a problem on the on the retail side, and then make it part of the solution is really cool. It really is an ROI for any solution provider out there that's listening to this. And
Yeah.
be like, here's how our service is
Yeah.
going to help you in the bottom line, because that's important too. You need to make money.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and hopefully, this is something that again, it's we're trying to educate everyone on this, right? I mean, the guest included too, that look, we don't want you to come and pay these service charges or these hidden fees for us covering, what the credit card companies are charging us. So, we'd like you to move towards this digital form of payment, if it's available to you. And if not, we'll happily print you a check and do that as well. So yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting hearing you talk about that and the parallels that are when we start looking at convenience and the EV, kind of revolution that we see in certain markets around the world, where instead of filling up your tank in a minute or two with petroleum, you might be sitting for 30 or 40 minutes with an electric vehicle, and it really changes the game. And so thinking about potentials for even table service, ordering at the table, ordering from your car, paying
Yeah.
at the table, and leveraging a lot of these same technologies that have been very successful in the casual dine and fine fast sectors. It's incredible to see how they in the future will likely be rolling right into convenience. But John, I really enjoyed this conversation today. Thank you so much again for your time, and really looking forward to talking to you again soon.
Yeah, me too. Thank you both for having me. This has been phenomenal. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you've certainly not only made me hungry because now I want to eat some food, and a margarita as well.
Are you
But
thirsty?
it's a
Okay,
little
yeah.
early on my side of the world today, but that's all right. I've done a full day's worth of work.
Just order
So
from the self-order kiosk and no one will
That's
know.
it. Yes. Yeah.
good point, with an extra side of ranch.
Yeah.
Extra
So
shot. Yeah.
John, I appreciate your time today. I like learning a lot about it, and plus a lot of really functional takeaways here, and just throughout the sectors, regardless of who you're serving and where. So I appreciate everything. And listeners, thank you so much for being with us today. And make sure you subscribe. We come out every other week, so make sure you subscribe so you know when our next show's coming out. And of course, rate us a 5-star. It doesn't take anything less. Last but not least, John, Harry, I appreciate your time. Thanks again. Take care of yourselves, and thank you for listening to The Future of Convenience. You've been listening to the Future of Convenience podcast, produced by Dan Munford, Nick Scherzer, Jenna Ferguson, and Lorraine Evans. It is produced, edited, and mixed by Carolyn Schnare, and music is provided by Jukebox Music. Learn more at globalconveniencestorefocus.co.uk.